Allow the eyes to close. And just allow yourself to really arrive here. Your physical body is here. But take a moment and allow the fullness of your presence your awareness to fully arrive. Allow that awareness to just merge with your breath. Don't try to change your breath, but just allow the fullness of your awareness to merge into it. If the mind wanders, as it always will, don't worry. Just bring it back. Whether there's thoughts, sounds, sensations, just don't allow the awareness to get hooked into them. Just gently bring it back to your breath. Back to this very moment. And the very perfection of this moment. As you sit and as you breathe, allow yourself to absorb that sacred atmosphere, that divine energy that is here. That sacred prana that comes from the tops of the Himalayas, that flows from across the waters of Mother Ganga. That energy of the sages and the saints. Allow yourself to just absorb that sacred energy of awakening. slowly and gently bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and rub them gently against each other. And press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly and gently open your eyes and lower your hands. Welcome to Satsang. So wonderful to be together. Starting as we always do with a question that's come in advance. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. How come when I pray and I pray, I just don't get what I want? Am I not a good enough person? When will my luck turn around? Is God punishing me? So, a lot of us go to God like we were going to the shopping center. We go with a very clear item in mind or list of items in mind. I need this, I need this, I need that. And so in the shopping center, what you've got to do is you park your car, you get out, you find the right store, you make sure you've got your money or your credit card. And for a lot of people, that's what going to temple or going to puja is. Okay, so I've got to show up with my flowers. Maybe I put some donation in the box, or I make some kind of dakshina. I chant a certain mantra, or I do a certain puja. And then, just like the clerk at the shopping center rings up my purchase, well, in the same way, God is going to sort of ring up my purchase and just hand me whatever I want, as though I've now purchased it. Through my prayers, through my mantras, through my showing up at the temple, through my puja, that I've now purchased this. But God is not a shopping center. And so it's not a matter of continuing to say the same prayers, as though somehow God just didn't hear you the first time, right? You know, sometimes if you go to an event, any event really, but a big event, some big hotel or convention center, the person who comes up and speaks will begin with saying hello, or good morning, or namaste, or Jai Shri Krishna, or Bharat Mata Ki Jai, or whatever it is, that expects some kind of a response from the audience. And when you don't give it loud enough, right, they always say, I didn't hear you, come on, let's try that again, didn't hear you in the back. And it's a technique of a lot of public speakers to get the audience engaged, to get them to give a really loud hello or Bharat Mata Ki Jai. But God is not using techniques. God's not there going, louder. Come on, I didn't hear you in the back. It's not a matter of how many times you say it. With God, you don't even have to say it. God knows. So if we're not getting something, it might mean that that's not actually what is best for us in that moment. My favorite way of thinking about this is if you walk up to a vending machine and you want a chocolate bar and you put in your, I don't know what it costs in India, dollar bill or 50 rupees or whatever it may be, and you push the button, you're going to get a chocolate bar out. The machine doesn't care if you're 400 pounds and diabetic and your teeth are rotten. The machine's going to give you what you put in the money and push the button for. And if it doesn't, then you think, oh, the machine's broken, right? Sometimes we kick it, sometimes we shake it, sometimes we just go to the next vending machine. And sadly, a lot of people have started thinking about God like that. Well, I put in my metaphoric money, I did my mantra, I did my japa, I did my puja. Means I've put in my money. Now I've pushed the button, I've asked God for what I want. But instead of getting my metaphoric chocolate bar, I get a metaphoric bag of celery. And I think the machine's broken. Right? This is when we start to think, God doesn't listen to me. God is punishing me, like the questioner asked. Or sometimes we think, I've got the wrong mantra. Need a new mantra. Need a new guru. Need a new mandir. Need a new religion in some cases. Because this machine's not giving me what I want. But that's not how God operates. God's not here to give us what you want if it's not actually what is the best for you as you walk your path to get closer to God. God doesn't care if you're a CEO of a company or a president of a company or a window washer of the company. God's not worried about how your stocks are doing or whether your son or daughter got into the best university so that all the neighbors are going to be jealous and think you're a big person. What God cares about is that you get close to God, that you walk toward God within yourself, that you peel back layers of untruth. And so you're going to get that which, number one, is the fruit of seeds that you've planted. Right? It's not that I'm going to plant an apple seed and then pray and pray and pray for peaches, that if God loves me, he's going to give me peaches. Well, I've planted an apple seed. I'm going to get apples. So what we get is the result of our actions, but it's also the result of us receiving that which the divine knows is the very best thing for us to get closer to truth, to get closer to God. So don't feel like if I just am louder or I say it more and more, that finally God's going to listen. If you're praying for something over and over and you're working for it, Because, sometimes you get youth who come in and they say, oh, I really need your blessings. I've got this exam tomorrow. And you say, well, did you study? They say, well, no, that's why I need your blessings. You've got to also work for it. So if you're praying and you're not getting it, ask yourself, number one, am I actually doing the action? Am I doing the karma that's going to flower into the fruit that I'm looking for? And number two, if yes, if you feel like you are, then ask yourself, maybe the universe knows that I need something different right now. Maybe that bag of celery was not a mistake, was not the machine being broken, was not it just being really not my day, can't even get a chocolate bar, but that actually it's the universe, the divine, perfect universe, giving you a message about exactly what is right for you. Not that you're being punished. God's not up there punishing or rewarding. We're getting that which will bring us closer to God. So ask yourself, how is it that which I've got, even if it's not what I think I want, how am I supposed to use that to get closer to God? Because what it means is your path to God is in that thing right now, or in that situation right now. So ask yourself, how can I use this situation to get closer to God? And stop thinking the machine's broken, because it's not. Questions? Any question that anyone here has? Yes, and then Manojji. Yes. Just one sec. He's bringing you a microphone. No problem. You sound wala ko bulalo, hai na biya?
How do you discover your purpose on earth? Like, how do you unravel what you've been put on earth to do? And how do you work towards that?
So, since she doesn't have her microphone, she said, how do you discover what your purpose is? How do you unravel what you're here for? Well, the good news is we've actually been told. If you pay attention in our scriptures, if you pay attention in Katha, if you pay attention to the words of the saints and the sages, we are here for self-realization, for God realization. That's our purpose. That's why we are here. Everything else is bonus experience. And so what you've got to ask yourself is, how can I use every minute and every moment to peel back layers? Meaning, most of us move through the world with this sense of who I am is my name, it's my job, it's where I'm from, it's my relationships, right? So, hi, nice to meet you. I'm so-and-so. I'm from here. I'm this role of this company, or I'm this relationship to this person. So-and-so's wife, so-and-so's husband. President of this, head of that, secretary here, director of this, male clerk of that, founder of this. I'm of this religion, I'm of this race, I'm of this age. But that's not actually who we are. That's all a product of the physical body. Keeps changing. So the purpose of why we are here is to actually break free from that falsehood, from thinking that that's who you are, and actually realize who I am is soul. Who I am is consciousness. Who I am is love, is divinity. And then that informs all of our actions. Because if I think I'm so-and-so, race, religion, job, relationship, well, that's how I move through the world. Don't you know who I am? I'm the president around here. Right? Or, oh, yes, sir, yes, because I'm the window washer and I don't want to make anybody angry. And so the way we move through the world is frequently based on the role that we think we play in that world. I'm a big person. Therefore, I move through the world like this. Right? I'm a poor person, or in my mind, a low person. So I kind of move through the world like this. How we speak, how we act. But it's falsehood. We are no bigger or better than someone based on the amount of current currency in our bank accounts. It's all just temporary energy. Our Honorable Prime Minister gave us a beautiful example of that several years ago, when suddenly in a matter of a few hours, all of the bills were rendered useless, just paper. You thought you were a big man or a big woman. Suddenly you found you had a cabinet full of paper at home, rather than a cabinet full of money at home. But that's true even when you don't have a prime minister who's making that happen. The amount of paper I've got in a safe or in a bank account or under a mattress doesn't change who I am. The color of my skin, the way that I make that paper in my day job to put food on the table, it's not who I am. And so the reason we're here, the purpose, is to really understand I am here as an embodiment of, a manifestation of, a vehicle of the divine. So that's our purpose. You could call that our highest dharma. But then, of course, we all have our individual dharma and skills and abilities and gifts. And I would say this idea of how do I know what my purpose is a relatively recent troubling situation. If you asked your grandmother, did you ever wonder what your purpose on earth was? It's very unlikely that she did. Ask your grandfather, did you ever wonder what your purpose on earth? Very unlikely. In many cases, even if we ask our parents, they just did what they knew were the right things to do. They weren't wondering, what is my unique purpose here? They knew that whatever flows through me. So, on the one hand, it's beautiful that we now have the possibilities, right? What our grandparents had to choose from was not very much. What we have to choose from is infinite. How do you want to spend your life? How do you want to make a living? What do you want to do? We now have an infinite number, really, of possible options. But along with this has come that confusion, with this idea that somehow out of all of these infinitely expanding options, one of them is the right one for me. And I've just got to find it. And when I know that, then I will be happy. And that isn't true. And that's why our grandparents were, even with so fewer opportunities, so much happier than most of us are. I mean, it's a really interesting irony. Without the technology, without the opportunity, without, in many ways, the freedom that so many of us enjoy, our grandparents were actually so much happier. Because, to a big extent, this idea of, I need to find my one purpose, actually makes a lot of us miserable. And it paralyzes us because we don't do anything, or we're not happy with what we're doing. We're not actually putting ourselves fully into what we're doing because we're not sure this is my purpose. Maybe it's not as glamorous as I would have liked, or as romantic as I would have liked. And so we've got these ideas that it's going to be something that's going to kind of fall out of the heavens and manifest in my lap with a big neon sign that says, "This is your Dharma." And I think in these cases it's really wise to kind of take a lesson from our grandparents, which is understand what your ethics and values are, what you deem important in life, that makes you feel fulfilled at the end of a day, that your life has mattered, that it has been in alignment with your values and ethics, that it has had a good impact on someone else. Maybe you just smiled at someone in the street. Maybe you helped someone across the street. Maybe you gave someone some food. Maybe you built a hospital. Maybe you gave eye operations. Maybe you do any one of a million things. Maybe you stuffed envelopes for an NGO to send out for fundraising. Maybe you swept the floor. Maybe you washed dishes. Maybe you pumped gas. It doesn't matter. Whatever you do, as long as it's in alignment with your ethics and values, and as long as it's making a difference. Now you look at things like, well, I pumped gas. How's that making a difference? Well, on the one hand, it's helping you fulfill your duty to your family by putting food on the table. Certainly made a difference to your children who now have dinner, where if you hadn't gone to pump gas, they wouldn't have had dinner. So sometimes our careers are actually that which we are able to utilize to fulfill that purpose, whether we're being paid for them or not. But in a lot of cases, that purpose may not necessarily be your career. The career may simply be that which puts food on your table. And your purpose, that unique gift that you have, may actually be the way that you interact with people. The joy and the peace and the love that you leave every single person who interacts with you with. It could be, I think about the guys who are hammering rocks on the side of the road, right? You drive through the Himalayas and there's these men and women who are hammering rocks to make the asphalt for the road. And you think, well, is that really their purpose? I mean, did they come onto planet Earth with rock hammerer tattooed on their behinds? Well, no. And yet, maybe you've got a rock hammerer who's hammering extra rocks because he doesn't want his daughter to be begging on the side of the road. So he's decided, I'm going to hammer extra rocks. Or my wife is going to come. We're going to hammer rocks together. Because we want our daughter to go to school rather than beg on the side of the road. Now, maybe in their entire slum area, no girl goes to school. Maybe their daughter is the first. And then maybe all of the other little girls in the slum start saying to their parents, I want to go to school. Like she goes to school, I want to go to school. And now this man has essentially started a revolution of girls from their slum going to school instead of begging. Now, did he wake up and say, my dharma is to start a revolution in gender equality? Of course not. He just knew, I don't want my daughter begging on the road. I want her to go to school. Maybe he dies. I mean, their lives are pretty treacherous. Maybe he dies before the revolution happens. Maybe he doesn't even know, even on his deathbed, what his purpose was. He was just doing his duty, waking up every day knowing this is what I need to do in alignment with my values and my ethics to feed my family, to make my daughter be able to go to school so she's not begging on the side of the road. And for a lot of us, if we could literally just get up with the same simplicity of mind that simply says, I'm going to just put one foot in front of the other, doing my very best with whatever I have, whatever God has given me, the skills, the abilities, the opportunity. In that guy's case, he doesn't have very many. Not skills, not abilities, not opportunities. But he made the best with what he had. And he started a revolution. So you think, if we just could put one foot in front of the other, knowing whatever I've been given, it's been given to me to use. To use for the betterment of the world. It's been given to me by the divine. Because here I am as an embodiment of the divine, doing God's work here on earth. So that's your purpose, is to do God's work here on earth. And it may be to sweep the floors, but to smile at everybody as you do it. And to just be the one who everyone walks away from feeling touched and filled with joy. Maybe it's the one doing eye surgeries, building hospitals, teaching school, working in nonprofits. Who knows? But maybe it's not. You're going to see what your own way is. But But don't wait for it to fall in your lap. Just get up tomorrow knowing, here's what I have. And use it. Because if God gave it to you, you were meant to use it. Use it to serve. And one thing that we always have is our ability to give love. And that love takes so many forms. Maybe it's food, maybe it's an education, maybe it's a hug. Maybe it's a beautiful email. Maybe it's just a smile. Maybe it's an operation. But every one of us has love in our hearts. And if you simply ask yourself, how can I share love today? There's no better way, worse way, bigger way, smaller way. Just like in our bodies. All the different parts of the bodies do different things. I mean, could you imagine if the ear started having a complex that it couldn't do what the liver can do? Right? So we need the ear to do what the ear does, and we need the liver to do what the liver does. So just start. But allow yourself to be open. Oh God, I'm starting. I'm starting right here with what I have right now. And if you want anything else from me, show me a sign, open a door. I'll walk through it. Beautiful. Manojji. Now the mic's working.
If we do have time, you can address this today or maybe for future satsangs. What can we do to minimize this world anger and the war, or especially because we are consuming more energy and getting it from Russia? We as a nation can maybe start some movement, use less energy. And that will prevent Russia from trying to sell energy to the countries who are using more.
Great.
And just like the Modi ji did in rupees bills, we can say maybe part of curfew, use less energy at certain hours, turn the lights off.
Beautiful.
And so on.
Beautiful. So he's asked what we can do. What we can do to help end this anger in the world. What we can do to help end the division, the violence, and especially this war that's going on right now in Ukraine. And maybe there are ways with using less energy. Are there policies that we can put in place that'll help end this war? So we'll take this as our last question tonight, and it's a beautiful one. On a general level, in order to end or help end anger in the world, the very best thing that we can do individually is to be transmitters of love. Wherever we go, as much as we can. Wherever we can share love, because see, anger is a ripple. So here's what it looks like a lot of the times. A man, let's say, is being a well-to-do man, CEO of a company, let's say, is being disrespected by his child in his house. Or he thinks his child is disrespecting him. The child is not obeying the way that he would like. He feels disrespected. He comes into the office. He yells at his employee. Not actually because of something the employee did, although he gives an excuse, but because he's furious at how his son is not living and acting the way that this father thinks his son should act. So he takes it out on the employee. Now the employee can't really say anything, he needs his job, but the employee knows, I didn't do anything. I didn't deserve being yelled at like that. So the employee now suppresses this anger, goes home, and beats his wife. The wife knows, I didn't deserve that. She beats the housekeeper. You see how this happens? So now, it's a ripple. One person's anger, when not properly healed within them, ripples out into the world. And of course, it doesn't end with the housekeeper. I just ended the example with her. But it keeps going. Keeps going. Maybe that housekeeper goes home. God knows how many kids she has that she then takes it out on. It's an energy. And so the very best thing that every one of us can do is make sure that when we are giving our energy into the world, that we're giving energy of love. Meaning, if you ever feel angry, which of course we all do, we're human, that it is your responsibility to take care of that anger before you infect another human being. Meditate, pray, go for a jog, drink a glass of water, listen to music, read poetry, write poetry. Do whatever you need to do so that when you are face to face with another human being, or an animal even, that you are no longer angry. So that's the first thing. The other thing, though, is that when you start to look at violence in the world, and we'll come to the war in a moment, a lot of the anger that precipitates violence is what you could really consider rightful anger. Meaning, I believe people who get up every day and they go to work, but they don't earn enough money to properly feed their families or to be able to send their kids to school, because of economic systems that we have that keep people oppressed, whether it's people of certain races or religions or colors or statuses or whatever it may be, there is an anger amongst people who are oppressed and suppressed that's a rightful anger. The dilemma, of course, is that it doesn't usually get used in a way that's beneficial. But as we see that happen in the world, I think it's really important for us to look at and to say, okay, why are we seeing so much of this type of violence? And rather than simply punishing it, can we actually try to understand the root cause of it and heal that? Can we, as global societies, create societies that are more equal? Societies where every person has a right to dignity, has a right to hold their head up in society, has a right to be able to feed their family without working 365 days a year as somebody's slave. A society, a global society in which people have access to their human rights. The right, for example, to worship their religion. All over the world, people are not allowed to worship the way that they would like, because a particular government may prevent them, or a particular social situation may prevent them from practicing their religion. People of certain sexual orientations are prevented from loving the way they would like to love, because society prevents that, or punishes it, or looks down upon it. So I think that as a global society, we need to make sure that we're not fostering systems that give birth to anger. Because if you can't feed your family no matter how hard you work, or you can't afford for your kids to go to school and have opportunities, or you can't worship God the way you want to, or you can't love the way you want to, people are going to be angry. People who feel oppressed and suppressed are going to be angry. So I think we need to change all of that. And then with regard specifically to that which is happening in Ukraine with Russia, the more we allow individuals and nations to become bullies, the more they become bullies. As long as everybody keeps giving the bully their lunch money, the bully's going to keep taking everybody's lunch money. And the thing is, when it's the bully against every individual child, he's going to get their lunch money. But if all of the other kids actually came together and they formed a united, cohesive whole, and they stood 20 of them, shoulder to shoulder, and said, "We are not giving you our lunch money," well, the bully is not going to be able to take on 20 of them simultaneously. But it requires coming together. And it requires all of those individuals then not fighting amongst themselves about who gets credit for this 20 of us idea. Who gets to stand in the middle against the bully? Who gets to be the one who posts about it on social media as the one who stopped the bully? Right? Pujya Swamiji always says the biggest problems that we face today are due to people's attachment to egos and logos. That it's all about who was the one, whose name is there, whose logo is there. And so, you're right. If we collectively came together and said, we are not going to use your oil, we're not going to import X, Y, and Z from countries, because of course we don't have to limit it in this case to Russia. Russia is enacting indescribable, incalculable crimes against humanity in the Ukraine. But there's plenty of other places in the world in which countries are enacting inhumane activities against people in their own nation, against people in other nations. That's not the only war happening in the world. And so if as a global community we came together and we said, we are not going to import whatever that country may be selling from countries that do X, Y, and Z, or A, B, and C, we'd be really strong. But we have to come together. Because as long as we are in competition with each other, whose currency is going to be the highest, well then each of us needs that oil. If the price of oil goes up too high in my country, my currency starts to suffer. And then, right? And then we've got that economic situation against other countries. So we would actually have to come together to support and to say, oh, okay, well, so I've got oil. I'll give you oil in the meantime. You've got this. You provide this in the meantime. But we'd have to come together to do it. But it's absolutely true, and it's a beautiful idea. We need to stop bullies. But they're only going to stop when we are strong against them. They're not going to stop because we say, hey, by the way, in case you didn't notice, you've got some really bad karma coming your way. They're only going to stop when there's some power through which they cannot continue to enact these crimes against humanity. Something's got to stop them. And either it's going to be political power, it's going to be firearms power, so unnecessarily more people will die. They'll just be Russians instead of Ukrainians, which doesn't make things any better, because the Russian people are just as innocent as the Ukraine people. So we don't want to end this with firepower. So there's got to be a power, a political power, an economic power to stop it, which all of us are part of. And that's the way for us to move through the world. But if each of us is so attached to, oh my God, how dare my price of gas go up? I'm no longer going to vote for this person because they promised gas prices were going to go down and gas prices have gone up. Food prices are up because if gas is up, transportation is up. So I can't get, the imported oranges that I want in the middle of winter in New York. So therefore, I'm not going to vote for this person. Unless we as a global society are prepared to make some sacrifices for the greater good. Maybe it's higher taxes so that there can be education, so there can be healthcare, so there can be environmental protection. Maybe it's higher gas prices, maybe it's higher food prices so that we can fight this thing. Maybe it's not having Valencia oranges in the middle of winter for a little while in New York, whatever it may be. But we as people have to be prepared to make some sacrifices for that greater good. And to come together united for that. And only then it'll happen. We'll start with yours tomorrow. We'll take you first. We'll take you first tomorrow. Wonderful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And so much love to all of you.